presentation on how to get kids involved in coin collecting. We've got a whole lot of stuff to talk to you about today, and if you've got any questions, please feel free to ask us, and we'll be able to discuss different ways to get kids involved in collecting and how your club can have a strong YN program. So without further ado, we'll have Cole start us off with the first thing.
Getting kids involved in coin collecting. Really, recently the new U.S. Mint programs have done a lot of our work for us, and they've gotten the State Quarters program, Presidential Dollars, and the widespread use of like State Quarter albums has gotten a lot of our work done for us. So there's a lot of collectors out there. We just need to bring them into a club and then nurture them up towards the national level. So really, the trick is not to go out and create new coin collectors. It's to get the existing ones and bring them into a club and work with them, educate them.
Yeah, we've already got a lot of programs at the national level that we can do. There's the Ancient Coin Project, which we'll probably speak about, the Copper Coin Project, your newsletter, which is a newsletter written specifically for and by young numismatists that's got a circulation of about 2,000, you said, right?
2,500.
2,500. And it goes out to anyone who subscribes. It's your newsletter at money.org is the email address. And it's a really great way for kids to get published, and they can write anything about anything that has to do with numismatics. And it'll be published and sent out to a readership of 2,500. And they can earn YN dollars, which is another great program that we've got, where you can earn money, fake money, throughout the year and use it at the end of the year or each month in your newsletter to bid on auction items. And you can actually purchase real numismatic items with your fake money. And we've got a picture of some here and the auction catalog. You can use something like this too in your own club. I know lots of local clubs have their own rewards or points system for young numismatists, and it can work really well. If you have certain tasks you have young numismatists do, you can have them do presentations at the meetings or work at your local coin show or do any number of different numismatic related tasks, and they can earn points or dollars or anything that they can use in your club meetings to pay dues, for example. If they do a certain amount of work during the year, if your club dues are, say, $5, if they do $5 or 5 points or whatever your system is of work, then they can have the next year's dues paid. And that's a great way to keep them active in the club and keep them in the club without them having to pay. As far as new programs that the ANA is starting, your newsletter is actually going to change formats here pretty soon, and it's looking like it'll probably be a blog type thing where we can have an interactive community for young numismatists who can, from all over the country, work together and read numismatic articles and post numismatic articles, and that's something that we're really excited about, and we've got a lot of different plans for. Are there any questions about your own local clubs and how maybe we could do something or help you out with them? There's a lot of programs that the ANA has with the education department where they're willing to send you items or paperwork or all kinds of stuff for your local club to work with your young numismatist programs. And if you have any questions or just comments about things that your club does, we can share it with other people here whose local clubs might not do those same types of things.
Are you opening up the questions now from the floor?
Yes, please.
Okay, I want to address an issue that just came up in an earlier meeting, and that's the phenomenon of tweeter. Do any of you tweet?
I do not.
No.
Okay, Twitter or whatever it is, tweet word. Okay. Any of you have Facebook?
Yes.
Yeah.
All three of you.
No, not me.
Not Cole.
What's the other one?
He's behind the times.
MySpace.
MySpace. I taught kids, as you well know, and to me, the average teenager in the United States of America is on Facebook. And what's the other one?
Twitter.
Twitter.
Or MySpace.
MySpace. It's phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you mention on your spaces or your web, whatever it is, what do they call it? You know, I'm still back at typewriter. Do you mention that you collect coins?
To be perfectly honest, I try not to, just for an internet safety aspect. But anybody who knows me definitely knows that I collect coins, and I am a member of the American Numismatic Association's fan page on Facebook, and I've got a couple of other numismatic-related groups and clubs on there. So Yes, it is stated on there, but I keep it to a minimum if possible. And I recommend that other people, for safety and security reasons, I recommend that they do the same. Although it is a great way to meet up with people, and there are security settings for yourself and for your groups that you're a member of, that they can be more secure by being secret groups, or you can put it on your profile to not show other people your groups. So there are safety concerns there as far as internet safety, and especially for younger numismatists and people under the age of 18, 16, 13, we don't necessarily want them.
But see, the phenomenalness of the Millennium Generation, Generation X, Y, all these other names of thing,
Right.
is that that's how they communicate.
Yes, and we do have Facebook sites and groups, and I don't know about Twitter accounts yet, but there are social networking sites out there that cater to young numismatists and numismatic groups, and Katie and I are both members of them, and they're active and they're out there.
And beyond Facebook and MySpace and Twitter, the things that people normally use, there's actually a more customized social networking internet site called Coin Network, which is basically like Facebook for coin collectors, that I think is a much safer way to do that kind of social coin collecting thing on the internet. You wouldn't have anywhere near as much personal information as you would on Facebook or MySpace or something else like that, so it doesn't actually connect to you that much to the coin collecting, so I think it's a safer internet option.
That's a great question, and it's definitely the wave of the future for coin collecting in general and the association and young numismatists. And that's one of the reasons also that your newsletter is moving more towards an online format. And I think that's a great question, and social networking is going to be huge.
Now, your newsletter will be 100% online?
We're looking into that. It's not 100% for sure yet, but it will be mostly online at this point.
At the moment, it's email.
At the moment, it's email.
Hey, Jeff, one thing we don't want to lose sight of is coin clubs.
Yes.
You know, everything is fine over the internet, but that's individual,
Right.
one-on-one, one-to-one.
Mhm.
You want to use the coin club, but of course in clubs you need people that will run the programs.
Yes.
No sense in having some youngster go to a club and just sit there and listen to the old people talking about
Right.
coins. Okay, that's not fun. So
Agreed.
It's got an interface.
Yeah.
Okay, you need programs and you need short programs
Mhm.
to keep their interest.
It's hard
Also-
for
Pardon?
It's hard for most local clubs because they have so few YNs. Most local clubs would only have 1 or 2, maybe 3 YNs. It's hard to run a program with that few.
Agreed.
Yeah.
But they have to
Yeah.
advertise.
On the other hand, there are
Promote
clubs.
to bring more in.
Right. There are clubs who have separate YN programs,
Right.
which if your club can handle that, if you've got enough YNs and enough dedicated volunteers to have a separate program apart from your regular club meeting, that's really great, because the YNs then feel like they have a special place in your club, and they generally tend to get giveaways, prizes, and less technical sometimes presentations that they really enjoy more than, say, die varieties of Washington quarters or something like that.
And they're more likely to stay involved if they have peers that they
Interact with on a
interact
regular
with and
basis.
connect with.
Yeah.
Peers.
I think something important to do would be to put a call out to the membership for people that can help put these programs into place, because I think that's where the gap is. If you don't have someone who's dedicated to trying to run a program, well then it's just going to die on the vine. It's not going to make it. You've got somebody. So I think one thing that should happen would be a call out to the general membership for someone at a club to be the youth director or
Right.
whatever. Then arm them with something, because most people, including myself, I don't know what to give them or what to do, or give them something that's a more of a not a boiler. I'm not going to say a boilerplate type of thing where you can run something off. Where okay, here's a program for something. I think that Mint idea is great, where they've
Right.
got it broken down. Then you can copy some of those things off and give them to some of the kids and make it a little bit more of a program. Give something that maybe somebody wants to help the programs out but doesn't know what to do. They can do something like that.
He's got a good point here, and we have 3 generations up here. Because you're millennium. what generation?
1984, so whatever.
Whatever generation, X,
Yeah.
Y, Z. You're 17, I think.
18.
18. So you got 2 and you're
14.
Yeah, you're the little one.
The little-
Okay.
little baby.
There, having taught, you're separated. Actually, your 3 generations are separated.
Yes.
Okay, here's the thing. You're talking to an adult audience, and Colonel, this is something you need to hear. You're talking to an adult audience here. The point is, you're asking every local coin club to have a youth program. That requires an adult to come step forward.
Yes.
That's what you said. Tell us what you're looking for in those adults. I sat in front of kids for 31 years. My approach is different. What are you looking for as a young person, as an adult? Is it the old crusty guy, hey kid, come on over here, I'm going to talk to you about coins? Or is it, hey, what do you like to know? What are the things you're looking for? Because that's part of this program. What should be the characteristics of somebody, like you say, is willing to step over?
Well,
I think they should, first of all, they have to be willing to work with, they have to be willing. Because if you just end up appointing somebody, they're not going to like it very much. And they need to be more outgoing, and they need to be willing, they need to probably work well with kids. It helps to have an educator, like yourself, someone who's worked with kids previously, who knows how to teach and that kind of thing. But, really someone who's outgoing and who knows enough about coins, but is able to tone down their knowledge to a lower level.
Amen.
the ideal actually would be to have a older YN
Yes.
or a recent YN, someone in their 20s, maybe even early 30s. That's the ideal because they can relate to the kids better, and the kids feel like they're talking to a peer more than if they had someone.
Yeah, it's easier for them to see, hey, this is something cool to do if you've got somebody 17, 18, 22 showing them, this is I collect coins, this is what I do. I'm sharing my knowledge with you. I'm sharing these coins with you that have been donated by other club members, or the ANA or the US Mint has a great program where they have plenty of giveaways for you.
They'll give you anything you want.
Yeah.
And as much of it as you want.
Well, not anything. Bag of
Well.
quarters, that's out. But yeah, ideally, if you can find a younger, comparatively numismatist to work with your young numismatist programs, which again is a rare bird these days, but they're out there and they're enthusiastic, hopefully, about sharing their hobby with other young numismatists and nurturing them and growing them into what they are, then you can have a perpetual program with the older young numismatists teaching the younger young numismatists.
And as far as YN programs go, a lot of times it's really difficult to put on one at a local club just because of the small numbers and the difficulty in getting YNs to come. Something that is another option is doing YN programs at schools, because then you
Yes.
don't
Yeah.
have to get the kids to come, you come to them. And you're not going to get every person in the class to be interested, but if you get 1 or 2 or 3,
And you can tie it in with whatever their current lesson is. I
Right.
think 6th grade in California at least is ancient history. So you could bring in some ancient coins, Greek or Roman or something like that, and tie it in with the lesson plan.
Right. And since this is called Getting Kids Involved in Collecting, right now we've been talking about the kids that are already involved and how to get them more involved. Well, how do you get it to start? Most of the time, they're not going to show up to you. You're going to have to go to them. Some of the best ways, she said, libraries, school programs. If the school board in your local area is okay with you going to the school and doing a program, history classes work great, art classes work great. There's several things you can tie in educationally with coins, and there's several lesson plans on the US Mint's website, and the ANA has some in their section. You can also go to scout programs and scout troops. The Coin Collecting Merit Badge is a fantastic way to get Boy Scouts involved, and Girl Scouts have their own Fun with Money patch. So if you have a local scouter in your coin club, they can go and work with the Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts locally and reach out to young numismatists there. And those are vast resources.
Yeah, one thing I've found out that a lot of people don't think about is libraries.
Yes.
All libraries have a room for meetings, and they have also a flyer that they publish, or a little pamphlet,
And
a
generally
monthly
display
pamphlet,
space.
listing what's going on, the events that they have. And if you talk to the the one in charge, the chief librarian, they will most likely accept something like that from you in reference to setting up a program for, say, a Saturday morning at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock for 2 hours or an hour and a half. Tell them what age group. They'll be distributing some things, telling them about some programs, trying to motivate their interest, have a little coin auction for them for fun, give them some kind of chits to fill out that they can use for bidding, and you can do an overall program. And most of you know what type of a program I'm talking about. But that's a good avenue, and it's free, and they'll publish it for you. And sometimes local newspapers will have a column in there about what events are going on in the local library. And I find that very, very good for us. It really is. So keep that in mind, you know, in addition to what Jeff and
the kinds of kids
Katie
we generally
and Cole are talking about. But that can be a good avenue. Now, I just left some things here too. Something we put out, recommendations for forming and conducting Club YN programs. There's some ideas that have been, they never go old. This is an old publication that I did about 4 or 5 years ago. Just the info in there never goes old. You can always add to it, and there are newer things that keep coming out. And then this little program here was what we were talking about before about the YN newsletter that goes out to keep the interest in children throughout conventions, from one convention to another. They don't have clubs to go to. They can do it right here and still be part of it. But I do have a requirement on this program here that they be a member of the ANA. Once they do that, then at least we have another member. And they get free coins and free foreign notes if they fill out the quizzes in your newsletter. That's another avenue to keep people interested throughout the year, and that was my goal. It's isolated, they're small. We've built up a total of about 30 or so in that ballpark that answer those quizzes, and every time I just mail them the info. And some of them are very grateful for getting things like that.
Let's continue the theme for the sake of the program here, and the fact of, obviously, we've got to build an audience.
Yeah.
The thing is, let's deal with the local coin club.
Okay.
The first one of the questions are posed to you, what we look for the ideal youth coordinator, and the young person, somebody not too far from remote from the edge. We call that peers. Okay. And so forth. But let's deal with the actual logistics. You know, Colonel Majors has brought up the question of the local library. But let's take the local coin club itself, the actual physical thing, what I call for my training, the classroom.
Right.
You know, you just got, we got the young kid. He's interjecting. He's got the stuff. But where do you do them in the actual meeting? Kids, you know, you got adults sitting here and so forth. How do you vision, if we actually went into a room, how do you envision this program? Where would it be? Where would it be? Would it be in a separate room? Would it be someplace like this? Give us some logistics so somebody setting this up would know what to do.
I take it we're all members of successful YN program clubs.
Yeah.
Why don't we just go down the line and talk about what our individual clubs do, and if somebody else has something extra to add from the audience, maybe how their club works it, and then, or we can talk about other programs that are possible that none of our clubs potentially do right now. And we'll go ahead and start with Cole, and we'll work our way this way.
With the moment, our local club in San Diego has YNs.
Cole, if you identify the club, give the credit the club name.
Okay, the Heartland Coin Club in San Diego is what I'm a member of. And at the moment, we really need to rework our YN program. But ideally, it happens either before the meeting. It all depends on whether your club can get extra space or not. Another room would be ideal, but if you're meeting at a place where they're charging you usually a nominal fee to hold your meeting there, another room is probably out of the question since you're going to have to pay for it, unless you have a very good YN program. So we have, before our meeting at the moment, we just have pizza and drinks for the kids, but we eventually want to go to something where at our next YN meeting, it's going to happen beforehand, about a half an hour, 45 minutes beforehand, and we can teach them to grade Lincoln cents. I think it's going to be our next subject. So you can teach them something, and then you could probably have a show and tell with somebody who brings in something interesting, maybe. You know, we really need to develop our YN program. We have a number of YNs, but now we need to educate them. So probably a separate room if you can, and give them something to do, something to look forward to, especially.
at the Greater Jacksonville Coin Club in Florida, we actually have a very strong attendance at our meetings. We typically have about 75 regular members and between 5 and 10 young numismatists show up at each meeting. But we actually keep everyone dispersed in the same room. We have one large program for the whole thing, but we have a separate section of the program dedicated just to young numismatists. And the general club populace actually really enjoys both the educational section there and participating in it in several different ways. For example, the last 2 months, we've spoken about World War II and the different coins and notes which were issued by countries in Europe, either occupied countries or countries who were rationing for the war and had to make coins out of different metals or different methods of manufacture than they were used to in the past. And so at the end of that also, a lot of the club members who had served in World War II got up and spoke about their experiences, and they shared that with the kids, and we had all kinds of really neat, interesting educational information. And at the end, they even gave each YN there a set of coins from the countries that we talked about, which none of them were expensive coins. And truthfully, the trick to that, as I've heard from other YN directors and coordinators of different clubs, is quantity over quality. If they get something, if YNs get something every month or every meeting, even if it's just a dateless buffalo or a Indian cent in good condition or very good condition, neither of those are expensive. There's something that you can get in quantity from local dealers or coin club members, or even the ANA has several things. If you contact the education department, they've got just boxes of stuff that they're willing to send out, and it's an underutilized program that they've got for local clubs. If you have something, just like the Greater Jacksonville Coin Club, they give something to every YN at every meeting, and they've got their own separate, but during the meeting time, our meetings last about an hour and a half, and we probably dedicate about a half hour to that, to a YN program and the YN giveaway each meeting. So it's not something that we separate out other than time slots. We keep everyone all together, and I think it really works out for the kids because they become friends with the regular members of the club. They grow to respect them through their knowledge and their willingness to share both their coins and their information with the kids. And I think it works out well for our club in that way. We also have a bus trip to a large coin show every year. We go to the fun show, of course. So we rent a bus and everyone goes down on that, and there's a lot of camaraderie and friendship that develops on the bus trips between the young numismatists and the older numismatists, and kind of the show and tell that goes on before and after the show. What is your club?
Sorry. My local coin club actually does not really have a separate YN program. We really don't have very high YN attendance. I think Jeff's situation would be the ideal if we're talking about what we think is best for a local club. My club actually works out pretty good too, because we don't have, I don't know if your clubs do this, but a lot of local clubs will do like auctions and trade-in and things like that. And our local meetings don't have any of that. We have a short business meeting in the beginning, and then we have a show and tell, and then a educational presentation. So there's not a whole lot that's really would be boring for a YN. Our educational presentations are always great. I think show and tell is actually our highlight, because every person brings an item for show and tell and they talk about it individually, and it's a good opportunity for YNs to bring stuff that they don't know anything about, and they can ask people about it and learn about their own stuff. They can learn about the specialties of the other members of the club and really interact with the adults also. But if you have, only 1 or 2 YNs a meeting, you can't really have much
Just
of a
for the
YN
numbers.
program.
And the name of this club, please?
Cincinnati Numismatic Association.
Did you have a follow-up question to?
Yeah, I
to
do.
something we
This
said?
this goes back to the 70s, before you all were born.
I wanted to add on to the club
Yes, please
activities
do.
too,
Please
if
do.
I
Okay.
may.
Okay.
Do you want me to wait until after
Yeah,
your
because
question,
this is
General?
another issue, because
Go ahead.
he's trying to develop a program here.
Okay.
There's another issue that comes with YNs. 2 issues. I want to address it. What is the definition of YN? Pretty
Right.
soon, young man.
Doctor. No one counts me
He's
as a
not a
YN anymore.
YN
I think it's the
anymore.
facial hair.
Okay.
I think that's what it is.
Okay.
But no one
Okay, we have to
accepts me.
define that, because there's some other generations in here. the definition of young people is actually being changed. It's no longer in his time, which was when Lincoln was president, and so,
Yeah.
18, 19, we're talking now up to 30.
Mhm.
Okay, that's a phenomenon that we have to realize. But there's another issue. This is an issue goes back to the 1970s with my first coin club, Leo Numismatic Society. We have YN programs. We have great YN programs. We have Mr. Majoris, you and everything. But what is the identity, to use some fancy terms, of the YN in the club? Is he allowed to be elected and serve in office? Can he vote, or she vote, sorry. Okay. And that was a hot issue in my local coin club back in the 70s. And I'll tell you how we resolved it. We resolved it, they can vote down to a certain age, and they can serve in office. Now, I don't know different states, because I speak of California. I don't know if you're incorporated or not. There are legal obligations of a minor holding the thing.
Right.
I'll tell you, in the National Model Railroad Association and all the other hobbies, that's a big thing. YNs are fully franchised.
Yes.
I'd like you to comment on that,
I-
because there's some real thick arguments with old guys. I ain't gonna have a bunch of kids over here voting.
Right.
I want you to redress the issue of franchise and service.
I think if there's no legal problems, you should allow the YNs to have every responsibility.
Give me the
and
minimum age too.
opportunity.
You know, obviously, we can't have a 7-year-old be president.
Well, right, but you're not gonna elect.
There's one in
a
the White House right now, but that's another story.
You're not gonna elect a 7-year-old president.
Yeah.
You know, no YN under an age where they would be good for that position is going to realistically get into the position, so I don't think that's necessarily a concern. I think if you have a YN that you can get in a less involved office to start and continue them through the ranks of your coin club, I think that's a good way to keep them.
For example,
involved.
a YN board member.
Right, a YN board
The old
member.
traditional junior vice president.
Exactly.
Junior
Okay.
vice president, things
Which
like that.
incidentally, San Jose Coin Club, they changed that to get away from the concept, San Jose, California, of a junior vice president. They call it the junior president, with the concept that he will move up in a few years. Now, you two are of legal age, correct?
Mhm.
Okay, yeah.
What is?
You're 21.
I see where you're going with this.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, but Cole, in any of your clubs, are you allowed to vote?
Yes.
Are you allowed to run for an office?
Yes.
Do you serve in office?
Yes.
Which one were you elected to?
I am junior vice president.
Oh, okay, I should know.
As well as the ANA rep.
Okay.
Some of these things come up and are developed when problems seem to come up in front of the club. Normally, you don't have that problem with YNs, okay, that's isolated, but it can come up. And when you do, then you have to set up some rules and guidelines, that's all.
And from a pure numbers standpoint, I don't know of many clubs where YNs outnumber the older members.
Right.
Well,
I
By a
think
significant
that-
margin.
Yeah, I know, but it was an argument in the 70s, and at least the clubs I belonged to, and that was just when we went to 1971, 18-year-olds got to vote, and it's an issue. I know in other hobbies I belong to, it is not an issue, because they want to fully enfranchise
Right.
young, especially if you join a fraternal lodge. You start as a junior elk and you move in at 21 to full elk. But it's an issue that when you deal with local coin clubs, it's not fair to me to disenfranchise a group of people over here,
Correct.
because then they lose a vested interest in that organization. Well, and you're right, no 70-year-old will ever be elected
Right.
president. Though there is a 17-year-old,
Where,
San Jose,
Yeah,
California,
San
who is
Jose.
president of
I
a
was
major
gonna
club of
just-
250 members.
yeah, I was just gonna mention.
I think it really depends on the young numismatist. I know several out there who are 17, 18, 20, who I wouldn't want running my
Right.
club.
Very
But I
good.
know, I mean, Cole, he's 14. I think he would do a pretty good job of doing any club job.
With too bad, Cole, you can't run for the current office at 1600 Pennsylvania.
That one's legally mandated.
Yeah.
It depends on your club bylaws also. Lots of clubs do stop the YN age at 18, and some of them actually do put in when you're allowed to run for club office. I know some clubs have age 18, the ANA, for example, you have to be 18.
Let's address the issue of what you define as YN by age, because that's the only number we can go by.
Right.
It's getting kind of ambiguous even with the
Thank
ANA
you.
now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Give me an example where you suddenly have to be weaned. What do you think, Cole, all of you?
Exhibiting, I know, is 18. If you're
18 is the cutoff for a lot of things,
Yeah.
especially outside the ANA. 18 is pretty much always the cutoff. Inside the ANA, there's some things that have a cutoff of 22, but it's becoming more leaning towards 18.
Okay, well, we're addressing this to the local coin club.
Per-
And it's almost always 18.
Personally, as someone who just went and graduated from college, I think 22 is a good cutoff because for those 4 years between 18 and 22, most of your young numismatists are probably going to be the high academic achieving, going to college types. So they are not going to have jobs, extra money for club memberships and all that. Being treated as a YN for those extra 4 years doesn't cost necessarily your club anything, but I think the benefits your club can reap from an older member who shows up either occasionally or even all the time if they go to school close to home and can still attend local club meetings. I think they have a strong benefit there of showing that they want to be continuously involved in the club. And I think by showing that to the younger numismatists, that one of their older members and probably friends still wants to be involved in the club, I think that goes a long way for your club. And I would say that a 22 cutoff is really nice, although 18 makes sense.
All right,
Well, I
Jeff,
agree with what Jeff
Yeah.
said.
yeah.
Another model you might use would be the health insurance model where you're cut off when you're 18 unless you're in school.
Unless you're in school.
And then it goes to 22.
Okay, guys, I gotta run a camera here, so say that again so we can get this in.
If you use the health insurance model, and they're no longer a YN when they're 18 unless they're in school.
Okay.
You know, and then it goes to 22.
Hi, this conversation is so interesting. I was surprised to look at the clock and see that we only have about 15 minutes in the time slot. And I wondered, I just want to make sure you're able to get through your material. And maybe we should limit comments from the floor until after your presentation.
One more facet of the club, because it might give you some ideas too. At Ocean County Coin Club in New Jersey, we have a firehouse that we have rented. And what we do at 6:45,
Right there.
at 6:45, what we have is an entrance, and we have our YN program begin at 6:45. We put them off in the corner. The firehouse is a little bigger than this room, maybe about 10, 15 feet bigger, all the way around. And we put a table and some chairs here, and we have the YN sit there in the corner. And then we have our YN director and myself, we work the YN program. We give them 15 minutes of education, and then we give them a half hour of a free coin auction at every meeting, twice a month. Most clubs meet once a month. We've met twice a month for years and years, ever since we started back in 1970. So that's a plus for us too, because it keeps people coming back every 2 weeks, rather than go from month to month, then they lose sight of it and then forget about it, and then before you know it, it's a second month. So that's a plus for us, I think, in having it every 2 weeks. So we do have it at that corner there. Then at 7:30, we break it apart. And then most of the youngsters go home, because they have their families that have to bring them, okay? And sometimes they have to drive 30 miles, 20 miles. And then we start our regular club meeting at 7:30. We usually have 5 or 6 dealers set up also on the edge here, which helps our club a lot, because people, when they come in, they can at least look at some coins, maybe buy, sell, trade. So that's a plus for a club also, whereas some clubs just go to a restaurant, eat, talk about their coins, and that's it. They don't have activities like that. So without any more push.
And you had a question, sir?
Go ahead, sir.
Did you have?
Okay. Now I also have some cards here. I'll give you each one of these. This is a card we produce 1,000 every year. It costs like $50, two-sided. Every meeting is on here. Every activity that we do is on here throughout the year, like our banquet and all that. So it's a little thing that you can keep in your wallet, keep in your purse, and you always have all the information right on hand.
Jeff,
Thank you very much.
Yes.
we got about 15 minutes,
Right,
so
we've
why
got,
don't
we've
you?
got one last section here.
Okay.
Since it's called Getting Kids Involved in Collecting, what's a great way to reach out to kids? Local coin shows, or larger regional or national coin shows. You should have YN programs or dedicated time to some sort of YN activity at your coin show, or a dedicated space, even a booth perhaps. There are lots of different types of activities you can do at coin shows. You can have continuous type activities like the treasure trivia at the A&A, and we'll talk about that for a second. You can have continuous types of activities like treasure hunts or spaces at booths where kids can look through large baskets of coins and make like a date set or something. You can also have one-time several hour programs or a couple hour programs about young numismatists or just coin collecting in general, because a lot of the times when you have just the general public coming to a coin show, they don't necessarily know a lot about coin collecting, but they know that they're interested in it. And if you can show them that it's an interesting and fun hobby, especially if you can have youngsters do the presentation and show their enthusiasm for the hobby, it really goes a long way in getting other people interested. And you can recruit them to your own local clubs or your regional clubs or your national clubs like that. And your coin show is a great, great place to reach out and get young numismatists involved in collecting. So if you guys want to talk about something related to that.
At our show, we have a coins for kids table, and we have a pile of foreign coins that they can look through, and they can pick one out that they like. They can look it up in the Krause catalog, and then they can keep it. And they can take like 5 of those, and then we have wheat cents, and we also have in the back some Jefferson nickels. And if they bring their books, they can look through and they can fill up their books. And so, and we use this, we also try to make it family oriented. You know, if the parents are obviously the ones who are giving them a ride. So if you keep the parents involved along with the kids.
Yeah, that's a big key.
Yeah. Yeah, but if you keep the parents involved with them, then you're going to have, the parents are going to be the ones to reinforce it at home. And you can have the parents, with the parents doing it at home, then coin collecting doesn't become a once-a-year coin show or a once-a-month meeting. They can collect coins at home, parents are there helping them push coins in a book and that kind of thing. So we also use the table at a coin show to get members.
YN programs at coin shows are really very ideal, because when you have a YN who's just starting their interest, they're probably not going to show up to your local coin meeting. They're much more likely to show up at a local coin show and just browse around. And if you can get that initial interest in a kid at a coin show and then, you know, tap into that, you can really develop them into a consistent collector. One of the best initial interest YN programs that I think I've seen at a show was having a table set up just with tons and tons of Jefferson nickels and having empty folders where the kids can go through and they can fill their folder as much as they want from the pile of Jefferson nickels that's there. That is really interesting for a kid, even one that's only, you know, 7, 8 years old, and is just having a very initial interest, and that gives them something to take home, and, you know, it gives them something hands-on to do, where something like a presentation or a talk doesn't really get into that
Right,
as
it
much.
doesn't necessarily involve them.
Right.
But if
and
they've got hands-on activities.
And Girl Scout and Boy Scout programs at shows are
Huge.
one of the greatest things. Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts are usually the type of person that might be interested in coin collecting to begin with. They're involved in out-of-school activities. They, you know, like academic things like that. And I think the Boy Scout program that Jeff runs is really an ideal program to tap into the interest that a Boy Scout might have. We usually retain quite a few of them.
Yeah, we typically can recruit out of about 100 of them, maybe one out of every 3 or 4 at a top show. We can really do a great job in keeping them or recruiting them to either the local club or to a regional or national club. I think the Boy Scout and Girl Scout programs, if you can do a coin collecting merit badge type clinic at your local show, that goes through, they've got a set of requirements, 10 requirements for the Boy Scout merit badge, just to use a very specific example. They've got a set of 10 requirements. It's very basic numismatic information, and it's a great introductory course that really catches them and keeps them interested in something. And that's what you're really looking for when you're trying to get the kids involved in collecting, is you got to find something that piques their interest. And you can tell them, you know, you don't have to collect Lincoln cents or state quarters by date, mint mark, design. You don't have to. You can collect coins with ships on them, or horses, or you can collect coins that are shaped weird, like flowers or triangles or squares. You don't have to just go straight with the same design for 100 years. You can collect what you want. You can find something out there that really interests you. And that's the greatest part about coin collecting, is there's something out there for every single person. You just have to figure out what else it is in life or in coins that you're interested in, and and you can find that and put it into your collection. And that's one of the greatest ways. Find what they really, really like and get them into that. Did we have one comment or question?
Yeah, actually two things. First of all, your local county fair. I'm from the San Diego area, so we have the Del Mar Fair every year, and so a number of the clubs will have in the exhibit hall. They'll have actually the table runs from about here to you guys, two sides with the exhibits, and then the local coin clubs man through the entire time the fair is open. Usually two people with talking about coins. Usually we'll have maybe like 500 to 1,000 foreign coins, and when I'm manning it, any kid who comes up, I'll just ask him, tell them they can have the coin, but they have to tell me something about it or something like that. I'll hope to get them interested in it.
Let me repeat that for the microphone in case it didn't pick you up.
Okay.
But he's talking about local fairs. You can go to a local county fair or a state fair and set up a coin collecting booth there for your coin club and have, say, a large set of foreign coins for the youngsters to come by and pick one out. If they can tell you something about it, identify it, then they get to keep it. Find a way to engage them and get them interested in the coin. My local club does something very similar to that, and they actually let the kids take their hand and grab, and whatever they get out of there, they buy just foreign coins by the pound. Whatever they get to keep, and they can sit there and help them identify it and help them find out what they received. And they can get, like you said, anywhere between 500 or 1,000 people to stop by. Go ahead.
Second thing is, you mentioned the scout program. This is more of a question. Having gotten my coin collecting merit badge in '56 and having two sons, both of whom got eagle, neither of them did coin collecting.
Ah, that hurts me.
But how does one become a counselor for the coin collecting merit badge?
Coin collecting merit badge counselor. That's a really good question. How do you become one? This is something you find your local scout office, your local council office. Just like the way Scouts is organized is they've got a national level, they go down to a regional, then a council, then a district level, and then a troop level. So if your local troop, or if you've got friends or family who are involved in a troop, they can point you to the local council office. And at the local council office, there's some paperwork you need to fill out. It does require a background check, and I think it's $5 or $10 to be registered as a merit badge counselor. And we've got it's just a couple of forms and a background check to be registered as a merit badge counselor. You can serve as a merit badge counselor for just a local troop, or the whole district, or even the whole council, as you see fit.
Yeah, but you also, in the state of California, you also have to be fingerprinted.
Yes. In the state of California, and I believe also in Florida, where I'm from, you have to be fingerprinted. It depends also who your chartered organization is. Mine, for example, is at a Catholic church, and the Catholic church also requires us to go through some sort of process between background checks, fingerprinting, and we've got another youth protection type program that we have to go through. So it is a little bit of a process, but if you find your local Scout Council, you can do that easily online. You can find your local Scout Council, and you can contact them, and they can step you through the paperwork, because it is slightly different for different areas, but it's mostly a national form. It's a single form. You have to register with the Boy Scouts of America.
We have about 5 minutes. You want to go ahead? You want to start to bring a little conclusion to it? Or
Sure.
Really, it's about adults helping the kids, really, and not trying to get the kids on their own. So you need to have somebody involved. You need to have somebody who's willing to work with the kids. Hopefully, 2 or 3 would be nice, and you need to have all kinds of giveaways whenever you can have them. And the Mint will give you tons and tons and tons of stuff. They can give you bookmarks, quarter boards, anything, except for coins.
Except
Also, I don't think we talked about YN programs at the ANA show at all. I don't know if you're aware, we have a YN program for the Young Numismatists of America. Is that right?
American Association.
American Association of Young Numismatists. They have their YN program. One of the 2 people that does it, Chris, is in the back of the room. That's a great program. That's today at 1. If you see any YNs on the floor, anything like that, try and get them to come up to that, because that's doing a program like what Chris and Will do is really ideal, because they, first of all, it's 2 YNs giving the program, and also another thing they do is they let any YN at the program get up and talk about what they collect or anything that they're interested in, and I think that works really well.
And as far as just one more wrap-up thing, the ANA is a great resource for your local club, for your local show, and for you to work out a YN program. We have lots and lots of stuff on our website. We have the education department, which is fantastic and will provide you with literature and coins for your club. We've got several different programs that we mentioned earlier, but we didn't necessarily have time to talk about in depth. But you can look at them on the website. The Ancient Coin Project, the Copper Coin Project. We've
They're all on the sheet up
we've
here.
got a form up here that's got a sheet here. You can get this on the ANA website, and you can model your local club programs after programs like the ANA has. You don't necessarily have to make it something that's really, really valuable, but something that involves them and engages them in coin collecting and rewards them for their work. You can model your programs after what we've got. I really love the YN auction dollars. I really love the other programs they've got. I really love the newsletter specifically for young numismatists. And if you can get them involved and engaged in coin collecting to a level where they want to come back, they look forward to the club meeting every month or every 2 weeks in Jim's case, if you can find something that really hooks them into it, that's how you get kids involved in collecting. You get them involved in collecting by finding what they want to do and making them really look forward to interacting with your coin club more often. If you've got other questions, like I said, you can contact the ANA. You can look at their website. My name is Jeff Swindling. I'm currently the chairperson of the Young Numismatist and Scout Committee for the ANA, and I've got with me Cole Schenewerk and Katie Heinrich, who are also members of the committee.
And you had a question too.
Well, just to kind of briefly back up on one thing you talked about was YN serving on the board of your local club. And one thing you might be able to get around if you have bylaws that would prohibit that, you can appoint the editor, and that's also another great way to do it, because also the young people, they know how to do all the software and everything, and us old guys haven't got a clue.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for a position to have a young person serve, consider the editor.
He's kind of referencing me.
I wonder why.
But it worked really well.
It did though. For my local club, when I was 13 or 14, somewhere around there, became the corresponding secretary and editor for our local club, and that's something that can really keep a YN interested. Now that I'm going to college, I'm passing the position on to someone else. It's not a YN. We tried to get a YN to do it, but it was more difficult because we don't have that many YNs in our local club. But putting them in an office or something like that really keeps them involved for at least the next year, and you can really get their interest piqued enough to keep them for, the rest of their collecting life.
And
Play to the strengths of your individual YNs.
Right.
If they've been around a long time already, you know what they're strong with, you know what they're good at, and you know what would keep them involved.
yeah, I was the editor of my local newsletter 2 years ago, and the current editor, I handed it off, and he just passed away. So I may end up being the editor when I come back.
The current editor passed away, or the newsletter passed away?
If Cole is in charge of it, who knows?
Yeah.
All right, but like we said, there's lots and lots of different ways to get kids involved in collecting. If you've got any other questions, we're available by email, and you can find our email addresses, I believe, still on the ANA website.
They're on the ANA website.
Under the committee section. But the ANA is a fantastic resource. I highly recommend that if you've got other questions, to contact them, or through them contact us, and we can help you out with any other ways you want to know of getting kids involved in collecting.
All right. Well, give them a round of applause. All right. You did get up here. You did an outstanding job. On behalf of the American Numismatic Association, Joyce and Lee Kuntz, General Chairman of the 2009 LA World's Fair of Money, it gives me great pleasure to present you a certificate, Cole, to Dr. Swindling.
He's not a real doctor.
Oh, please. Doctor of Pharmacy
and
counts.
Katie. And you get, and this makes you in a special fraternity only a few people know about, you now enter the numismatic group called Coasters. Get your own personal coaster, all right?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Jay, you're gonna have a whole set.
All right, thank you very much.